As you can see in the mountains, Golilala, we have the horse tracks that goes all around there. That's the horse tracks. The missionary is made to have the caravans and horses carry goods to the mountains. But also there is the version, the goi tracks. That's just right down here. It goes down to the river, cross, and then go up, and you come to the other point up there. So it took me quite a while to go through here. As I crossed over to the other side, I sat halfway there, and I thought to myself, this is it. Golilala has defeated me. I was prepared to throw my towel in, but thanks to Father Vladimir, he ran down from the top there, came down, met me halfway, encouraged me, and I stood up again. Even the food they brought to me, I felt like not eating any food. I just want to be up there to have conquered that. So you can see how steep that is. For the occasion of the centenary of the 100 years of the evangelization of Papua New Guinea, the Missionaries of Sacred Heart did our research and put together a book that was written by one of the confreres, Father George Delbos, and put out in the French language, Cent ans chez le Papou, which means 100 years in the home of the Papuans, with a question mark, mission accomplished. Is it mission accomplished? And within that research, they were able to introduce the first attempts by the Marists to come into evangelizing Papua New Guinea, and later on followed by the Pimes, and then the Missionaries of the Sacred Heart. And the key players, especially when it comes to the Missionaries of the Sacred Heart, is Bishop. It was Father Andre Navarre, Henry Verius, and Alain de Beaumenu. These are three important figures for the evangelization of New Guinea as the mainland. And I'd like to focus a bit on how when Alain de Beaumenu took over from Henry Verius when he died, who was supposed to be the coadjutor bishop of, that means the right to succeed Andre Navarre, but somehow he died very young at the age of 32. And so Alain de Beaumenu took over, and immediately when he arrived, he installed himself at Yule Island and began to penetrate into the interior of the Papuan mountains. And this was because of these spheres of influence that they had. The colonial authorities have had this policy of spheres of influence, where new missionaries are not allowed to evangelize where there is already other missionaries are working. So the only choice for them was to penetrate into the mountains. We're talking about Yule Island and going inland on Aropokina to Kubuna, and then eventually to Oba, going up to Popole, and that is the Fuyuge Mountains of the Papuan region. Now, he was also aware of the shortages of missionaries, and he has to return back home for times to try to promote the work of the missionaries in Papua New Guinea. Or at the time it was only La Papuasi, that means talking about the Papuans only, because it was the division at the time. Special note comes to 1911. During one of his visits to Europe, Alain de Beaumenu was on his way to do the Ad Limina, and he has to call in Fribourg in Switzerland to visit the seminary, the scholasticate, where the students preparing to become priests were present. And there he had a meeting with the students, and for some personal reason he was interested in this particular young man. His name is Jules Dubuy, and he is from the Diocese of Autun in France, and he was waiting to be ordained in a matter of months. So Alain de Beaumenu began to talk to him with some interests, and as soon as he went back to Rome, he sent another letter, a message of condolence, because at the time that was the death of Henry Verius, and at the same time began to encourage Jules Dubuy. Soon after his ordination, he came. The record says that he arrived at Jubilee on the 1st of January 1913. And this coincided with the first Mass that was going to be celebrated up in Ononge on the 11th of February 1913. Throughout the history, I just want to make that particular point that throughout the history of the Diocese of Bereina, there are many times the 11th of February is mentioned, and this was a special reference to Bishop Dubuy, because he celebrated his first Mass as a priest in the 11th of February. And so every big dates, you normally choose this date. So the first Mass was celebrated at Ononge by Father Closer on the 11th of February 1913. That also coincided with the feast of Our Lady of Lourdes. So soon after, some months, Father Jules Dubuy left Jubilee and have to follow the treks going up to the mountains, and Alain Dubuy already assigned him to be the priest in charge at Ononge. As soon as he arrived at Ononge, he began to be the head of the station and also began to organize how to see the development of this particular place. And so we saw him, some of his talents came forward in a big way. He was a constructor of roads. The roads were needed for the mules or the horses, the caravans, to carry materials from the coast up into the mountains. And then eventually this also served to bring down some materials or some food stuff from the mountains to the coast. So this was the link, and he spent a lot of time doing up these roads, surveying and trying to peg the roads to find the right angles, how to make the way through the mountains, as you can now see and observe the many horse tracks that we still use today in the mountains. He was also known as a builder of churches. He was very creative. He also had a chance to look around the place. He discovered a big river with a waterfall. That is how he organized the people to be able to cut the big trees up the top and then float them onto the river that came down onto the waterfall. And there he built a hydro station with a sawmill, in which he prepared all the timber for the building of the church at Ononge and all the other related buildings like the priest house, the convent, the school. These were all coming out from the local timber. And of course he had also time to encourage people for agriculture, to especially grow coffee already at the time. And he also did not forget his primary ministry to evangelize the people. And we hear a lot of stories of the generations today that talk about their forefathers and mothers telling them that every Saturday afternoon he would go maybe about 3 o'clock in the morning. He would get on his horse and ride from house to house, visiting the communities or the house lines, and reminding them that today is Sunday, everyone has to come to church. And as he goes ahead, by the time he comes back to the station, that will be like daybreak already, and in no time people are following him to come and celebrate the Eucharist. And that's when he was beginning to evangelize the people, teaching them about the faith and proclaim the good news to them. So he was like an all-rounder missionary. Now 2013 was an occasion for us to celebrate the 100 years, especially of the first Mass that was celebrated at Ononge by Father Closer. But the people still believe that it was Father Jules Dubuy himself, because he was the famous name and he was the big name, and everybody remembers him, and they still think that he was the one. But the records do say that it was Father Closer who actually celebrated the first Mass. But mind you, he came and stayed at Ononge for almost 40 years, and he saw all the development of the of Ononge until he had a tragic accident when he was trying to build a tunnel to be able to have like a cellar for storing away goods. That he had the landslide inside, and the rocks hit his head. And there's a note here in this book that's detailed that particular accident that happened on August the 6th of 1952, and that itself is the feast of the Transfiguration, and that's when he lost his life, and the people have buried him in the cemetery and have devoutly visited the cemetery, prayed around that cemetery, and for them they consider him as a great saint, a great missionary, but also a great contributor to the development of the people. So for this occasion, we had the occasion to celebrate by doing a pilgrimage from Waitape to Ononge, which took us 2 days. We walked from Waitape the first day, and then we slept halfway with a community, the community at Miku. That was also an occasion for this community to celebrate and be part of the whole centenary celebrations, welcoming the pilgrims and also having time to pray for celebrate the sacraments. And then we moved on to Ononge, where the dancers and the people, the community at Ononge welcomed us, and eventually they led us into the celebrations. So throughout the celebration, you hear from everyone's lips the names of Father Dubuy. The Dubuy, Father Dubuy. That's how the mountains people call him, but in France we call him Dubuy. So he is known for the great work that is done and he made a contribution. So on this occasion of centenary, we would like to acknowledge that such missionaries came, they left behind their families, their comfort, and were able to solicit the support and the benefactors from their families and also from their communities. And in fact, how we built Ononge Station was exactly a replica of his hometown parish in the Diocese of Oton. And when you see at home his home parish, that was a replica of it that he wanted to have recreate back in Ononge, and that's how it stood proudly in the mountains. And unfortunately, in 1998, we saw the collapse of this church through the cyclone that came through and finished that building totally. So once again, that's the occasion for the 100 years. And we would like to acknowledge the missionaries of Sacred Heart, the Daughters of Our Lady of Sacred Heart, in this particular mission that they started from the first arrival since 1885, and that has continued. And for us, the 100 years is from 1913 to 2013. It was the occasion to celebrate the first Eucharist celebrated on the 11th of February 1913 at Ononge, and all the development that has taken place to opening up the mountains and even accessing education and health services to the people, but also the evangelization of the people, especially they refer to them as the whole Wanapa Valley, which now we see as we drive on the Hiritano Highway. The Wanapa River comes down from the hills up in Ononge and Waitape, and also from Mount Albert Edward. So this is the occasion for us to also reflect back, and for us in the Catholic Church, this is the year of faith, and that was also one of the biggest events to reconfirm the people in their faith, and also remember the commitment of the missionaries and the collaboration with our forefathers and mothers who worked together to be able to see and ensure that was development arriving for the people, development as well as we see now civilization coming to our people.